It's not Julie, it's Lucy. Welcome to the first day of 31 Days of Halloween. It's me, Kimberly, and today I wanted to basically start everything off with a bang with a French extreme movie called Martyrs. So, this movie came out of the French extreme movement, which seems to have come from a lot of the political unrest and issues that were happening in France at the time, you know, directly challenging um, what the climate and political morals and stuff were at the time. So these movies in this French extreme category are supposed to be like super gory and just make you cringe throughout it, and they're also supposed to have some sort of meaning attached to them because, like I said, they're related to the political environment that was going on in France at the time and like their struggles and everything that were going on. So Martyrs is this movie about these two women who are trying to find these people that brutally tortured one of them. So the movie starts with Anna and Lucie, and Lucie is escaping from her captors. So you follow these two girls and to the point where they are women, and they're both in this psychiatric hospital. Lucie, obviously, after she escapes from her captors, and Anna is there as well, so you can kind of see that she maybe has some kind of trauma in her past, maybe a little different from Lucie's. And the movie starts off, for me, really promising. So I didn't know a lot going into this movie. I read the back, I saw the front where it's the quote on there says it's the most ferocious film like ever made or something like that. And then from the French extreme movement, I knew that like they tended to be very gory and violent and stuff. So I didn't know what to expect much more than that. So the movie for me started off really promising with this relationship with Anna and Lucie and kind of what Lucie is going through following her escape from this torture prison. And the movie operates a little bit in two halves, kind of like your Full Metal Jacket esque story where they start in boot camp and then they go to the Vietnam War. So this movie starts in one place and goes to a completely different place, which I'll discuss a little later. But I wanted to touch on like what my feelings were on this because it was not what I expected at all, violence or gore wise. I was expecting a lot more violence and a lot more gore. Like, there probably wasn't a single point in the movie where I was white knuckling it or wanting to cover my eyes because I thought it was going to be too gory or like, you know, when you see certain things that trigger you, like pulling out fingernails or putting stuff under fingernails or stuff with eyes, like you get that kind of weird feeling in the pit of your stomach and you're like, oh, this is really uncomfortable. I think I want to throw up. I never got that from this movie at all. I didn't think it was ultra violent. I didn't think it was ultra gory. The fact that people walked out of this because they felt it was so violent and gory, or they were vomiting, or they said it's gratuitously violent. I just didn't see it compared to a movie like Hostel or your later Saw movies. Those had me sitting there like, oh my god, I don't think I can watch this. This is so disgusting. Like, just the amount of gratuitous violence for violence sake. Like, you never get that in this movie. So, I felt, I don't want to say cheated because it sounds kind of weird that, like, I'm hoping for more violence. But I was expecting to kind of get that pit of my stomach feeling where I want to turn away from the screen because I'm so uncomfortable or disgusted with the amount of violence and gore that's on there. And I never got that. And I don't know if maybe it's because I'm coming from an American perspective, or if I just don't get the premise of the movie because I'm coming from an American perspective and I wasn't there for like the French upheaval and their issues with their politics and whatever. Because by the end of the movie, me and the person that I was sitting with, we both turned and looked at each other and were like, I don't get it. Like, what was the point of this movie? Like, there was no extreme violence like what we were expecting. The premise of it, that it changes from in the first half to the second half, was, I don't even know what the word is to explain it. It was a very, like, high and mighty, I guess, sort of premise, where the director's really trying to get some sort of message across, but I don't see what the message was, unfortunately. And I've done some reading on it that kind of clears up a little bit. Like it better explains what these people were trying to do, or what the director was trying to do. Because one of the problems with a movie that tries to go this deep is when it's a foreign language film. I don't watch foreign language films dubbed because the dubbings are usually terrible, so I'll watch them in their original language with subtitles. The only problem with that is, as you're trying to read and digest subtitles and then at the same time watch what's going on the screen so you know what's happening, you can kind of get a little lost or slowed down, or at least for me, have a little bit of a hard time processing, especially when more complicated concepts get brought in. Like, it's one thing to watch A Train to Busan with subtitles because, they're not talking about complicated subject matter. It's just, here's zombies, we need to run, rescue this person, lock them out, don't let them in, the guards are over there. It's not complicated. But when you start getting into sort of like existential or religious or concepts like what were trying to be brought out in this movie, it makes it hard to follow along in the subtitles and still be able to be present for what's actually happening action-wise on the screen. So that's why I think reading about it later helped me, like, at least understand what the point sort of was. It doesn't help me get it anymore, and it definitely doesn't help me or make me want to rate this movie any higher. So this has one of my lowest ratings and one of my the person that I watched it with lowest ratings. So he gave it a 1 because he just didn't get it at all, and it wasn't violent enough for him. And again, it sounds weird to say that because, like, who wants violence? But again, when you come up with something like Hostel or Saw, and Hostel was supposedly some of the inspiration for the director for this movie, I don't see the same level of violence in this that I do in Hostel at all. My rating was a 1.5, and I think that's only because I really wanted to like it, because I had heard such great things, and because it was supposed to be like this wonderful foreign film that was just mind-blowing and ferocious, like it says on the front cover. But yeah, I didn't get it. And it does get fairly good reviews on like IMDb, which gives it a 7.1, I think, and then Rotten Tomatoes, which is like in the 60s. And I know some people were giving it like 1 star, and some people were giving it 10 stars. Some people were saying it deserves no stars, or like this is in their top 5 favorite horror movies of all time, and it's so meaningful to them. So I almost kind of wish like I could have seen it the way that these people saw it. Unfortunately, I didn't. So that's where I'm at with that. I'm gonna go into some of these spoilery parts, where I kind of hinted where there's like 2 parts of the movie, and like more into the supposed meaning of this. So if you haven't seen this movie, you might want to give it a try. You may have a better reaction to it than I did. Or at least that would be my hope for you. I always hope that, even if I rate a movie poorly, that other people may have a better reaction to it, because I think it's important for people to make their own decisions. And if you're going to make your own decision, I hope that whatever decision you make is the one that's best for you and brings you the most joy. So if you do decide to watch Martyrs, enjoy it. If you have already seen it or you don't care to see it anymore and you just want to get into the spoilers, that's where we're going now. If you're going to cut out, please like, subscribe, comment, share, and definitely come back tomorrow for our next video. And we're going to move into the spoilers. I don't have a fancy card or anything, but take the jazz hands for the fancy card. So what I thought this movie first was going to have a lot of was kind of like a supernatural element to it, because in the beginning, after Lucie escapes, she's kind of being plagued by this supernatural monster, this woman with long hair, and she looks almost grudge-like, or ring-like, and Lucie's constantly being tormented by her and attacked by her, and Anna seems to not really be affected. So I kind of was starting to think that this might be something in Lucie's head that she was just seeing, and it turns out that I was right. Which I liked. I liked the whole supernatural element to it. The fact that she was so traumatized by this torture that she had this specter that was following her around, basically commanding her to kill the people who tortured her. As Anna is dealing with her grief over Lucie killing herself, she eventually goes into this basement and finds this woman down there whose name is Sarah, apparently. I don't think we're ever told that in the actual movie. Maybe? When the other people show up, the cult or whatever it is that's torturing these young women. And I don't understand the point of what was happening to Sarah. Because when Mademoiselle shows up and she explains to Anna, we're trying to create martyrs through young women who are more likely to transcend after they've been tortured, and we want to torture them so they transcend so that we can see what the afterlife is like. And she's like, oh, they do say her name. She's like, Lucie and Sarah were failures because the torture made them crazy. And I don't understand, if you're trying to go to see the afterlife, why are you keeping someone who's not going to get you to that point? And the torture between Sarah and Anna were very different. So Sarah, they had in like this medieval chastity belt with barbed wire around her waist and this visor on her that was nailed into her head. And they were just keeping her there to torture her, wasting resources. I don't know. Is it that easy to get young women to torture that they can just hang on to this one who's not going to provide them with anything to just torture for the fun of it? Because the whole point of this organization kind of makes it seem like they're above that kind of torture, because they're trying to do it for a higher purpose, so they would only torture someone to get to to get them to the point where they'd transcend. So if this person isn't going to accomplish that for you, why hang on to them? That made no sense to me, because then you look at what they did to Sarah and then what they're doing to Anna, where they're basically just dehumanizing her, where she has to go to the bathroom in a bucket. They beat her, they feed her this green slop, they keep her away from everybody, they isolate her. And again, I guess that's part of where people may say, oh, this is such a horrific movie, look at all this torture. But it's not any kind of extreme torture. It's beating. They're not pulling out her fingernails, they're not putting stuff in her eyes, they're not breaking her bones or anything. So I don't understand the difference between what they did to Sarah and what they did to Anna, unless they were just punishing Sarah for the fact that she went crazy. One of the things that most frustrated me with Anna was when they capture her and she knows what's going to happen to her, or at least I guess she thinks she knows because she's seen what happened to Sarah and Lucie. She doesn't fight back. And I don't know if it's because she's accepted her fate, if she feels like it's going to make it worse for her, or if she's just kind of biding her time, because at one point she does like punch the guy who is beating her, but it's kind of like a half-hearted sort of thing. You know, I don't know. It would have been nice if it was clearer, or maybe just I'm not getting it again because I'm an American watching a French film, and I by this point in the movie I was kind of like, what on earth is going on? Like, why are we here? And you know, not Sarah, Anna eventually just kind of gets to this transcendent state, and like they recognize this, and this is going to sound really awful, but after they flay Anna alive, they peel all her skin off, they cut it off. She's not like under anesthesia for this. She's conscious for it. One of the first scenes you see of her is them basically like strapping her up to be almost like a Christ-like figure, and they don't flay all her skin off. They leave her face on like a mask. And I laughed. I laughed at that. It was just such an odd choice to make, to leave her face on. I don't know. It looks so comical to me because the skin and not the skin, the muscle and the meat and the veins and stuff that they were showing looked decently real, but then like the face, however they did it, it just looks so fake and so mask-like, and maybe that was done on purpose. But God help me, like I laughed. I don't know. Probably because by this point in the movie, I was like, again, I was just like, this is nonsense. I've sat through almost 2 hours worth of a movie to get to what? Because then by the very end, Anna does transcend. She's able to communicate what she's seen, and this is apparently the first time that's happened. So Mademoiselle's really excited. She goes, she gets to hear what Anna says about the beyond, and they're gathering everybody else up from this cult or organization, whatever it is, so that they can hear what Anna had to say. And they never get to hear because Mademoiselle shoots herself. And before she shoots herself, she tells her assistant, Etienne, to keep doubting. So what might that mean? Should they keep doubting that there's an afterlife? Should they keep doubting that they're going to go to the afterlife? Like, what exactly did Anna tell Mademoiselle? Did she lie to her? Like, part of me hopes that Anna lied to her and was like, no, there is no afterlife, so that they think that they're doing this for no reason. Or like, yes, there is an afterlife, and, you know, you're going to hell in it. You know, because you do get the sense that Anna did see something, because you zoom into her eyes, which are like the empty martyr eyes, and you see kind of like these weird kaleidoscopic pictures and stars and galaxies and stuff. So she obviously sees something. I hope she lied to Mademoiselle, and that's why Mademoiselle killed herself. Or maybe she didn't lie to Mademoiselle, and Mademoiselle was like, alright, I know the ending to the story for all of us, so I'm just gonna kill myself now, because, like, why wait to get to the afterlife if I know how good it's gonna be? And I guess that's why she would tell them to keep doubting. Like, doubt, and it's interesting that she says keep doubting and not keep hoping. Like, keep doubting what? That there is an afterlife, that they can make these people transcendent. You know, because if you say keep hoping, it's like, be hopeful that you're going to get somewhere better, that there is something better after all of this is over. Whereas keep doubting is keep doubting that there's something good there. At least that's how I would interpret it. And that part was probably one of the better parts of the movie, because it twists again. And I don't say that just because it's the end, but I did enjoy like that kind of mystery and not knowing, and how this woman whose whole goal in life has been to create these martyrs to find out what's going on in the afterlife, she finally finds out, and then for whatever reason that we will never know, we will always have to speculate on, is she kills herself. So that was probably, other than the first half where, you know, Lucie and Anna, or Lucie goes and kills this family, and she's dealing with the specter that's following her, and the relationship between Anna and Lucie, that part was good. I enjoyed that part. And then it all just kind of went downhill after that, and to where I was sitting there saying, yeah, you know, it is what it is. I'm going to sit through this because I've already sat through the first hour of it. But it wasn't good again for me until that very end scene where Anna tells her supposedly what she saw, and then Mademoiselle kills herself. So this was our banger opening for 31 Days of Halloween. I hope you guys liked it. Hopefully you don't completely hate me if you liked this movie, Martyrs. You know, we all have different views, but I'm glad that you liked it if you did. So join me tomorrow for another video, and keep coming back for the 31 Days of Halloween. Share, like, subscribe, comment. Let me know if you agree with me or if you don't agree. And I will see you guys tomorrow. All right.